Hello and welcome to another episode of What Gets Captured on Film. My name is Dylan Paulson. I am your host. And if you are new here, this is a show all about movies and movie news. Each week I'll give you the biggest headlines of the movie industry and I will give you my thoughts about them. New this week is, well, before I get into that, let me say that the show goes live 9 a.m. every Wednesday, Eastern time, of course, 9 a.m. Eastern. Every Wednesday morning on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and then show also goes live on YouTube around noon. I do want to say that new this week and moving forward, if you have inquiries that you want to write into the show, if you want to ask me a question, if you want to argue with me about a certain point, you want to tell me I'm wrong, then feel free to do that. So just write your inquiry and write it into whatgetscaptured@gmail.com. Please have those in by Monday each week around noon or so. That's what we'll say, Monday around noon. Whatgetscaptured@gmail.com. If you want to write into the show, I'll read your inquiry live if it's a question. See if it pertains to any part of the news that we're talking about. If you want to ask a question about the news, something I don't normally cover, anything. I'll read it live on the air and give you my thoughts about that. Yeah, that's new this week. Trying to get a little audience interaction from you. If you don't want to write in and you just want to listen to the show, that's of course fine too. But before we get into the biggest headlines, let me just let's go over some smaller news stories that don't necessarily deserve a write-up of a story necessarily, but things that I still want to talk about in general. So let's talk about this past weekend and the biggest box office grosses. So this past weekend, top 5, I'll just read them out to you from top earning gross down. Number 1 is West Side Story with about $10.5 million, $10.6 million we'll say. Number 2 is Disney's Encanto with about $10 million, $9.9 million, $9.985 million. Number 3 is Ghostbusters Afterlife, still hanging on, $7.1 million. It's pretty. Total gross is $112 million. That's huge movie. Number 4, House of Gucci, $4.1 million, holding on there. Number 5, Eternals, Marvel's Eternals, $3.1 million. And then, moving down the list, we have a few other things. Resident Evil is still up there. Clifford the Big Red Dog. Dune is still up there, $106 million gross total. Only about $870,000 for the weekend. Venom is still up there. King Richard is up there, kind of low. National Champions, which debuted this week, only in about 1,000 theaters. It's a lot, but it only grossed about $300,000. Pretty low. Red Rocket is up there too. That debuted last week as well. Only in 6 theaters, but it got just shy of 100,000. So, and I'm gonna get into some award things in a little bit, but Red Rocket is up for quite a few awards. People really seem to be liking that, and I believe National Champions. I don't know. The trailer for that seemed great. I saw it. I covered it on the show maybe 2 weeks ago, and that seemed great. So, maybe there's still a life for those movies as well. So, all right, that was last week's box office. I'm gonna continue to do that each week. Just wrap up the previous weekend. Again, I record this on Tuesday evening, and it goes live on Wednesday morning. So so I'm covering the news from December 8th to December 14th. I usually say that at the top of the show. So this was the weekend of Friday, December 10th. So any stories related to that? So that was that weekend. And the next thing I wanted to talk about was that the Hollywood Reporter had a songwriters and cinematographers roundtable, 2 different roundtables, songwriters roundtable and cinematographers roundtable this week. Both were pretty interesting reads. I read most of both of them, a little more of the cinematographer one. I just wanted to, bring that up and say that the Hollywood Reporter is starting to do these again. And I just wanted to, bring those to people's attention if you wanted to talk about, or if you wanted to listen to, professionals in this industry talk about their work at a really high concept level. It's, they're always super interesting. And soon I think they're going to be starting to roll out, the Hollywood Reporter, is going to be starting to roll out the writers roundtable, directors roundtables, actors roundtable, actresses. Well, I think they did the actresses one last week or 2 weeks ago. That was the thing I read with Kirsten Dunst, Kristen Stewart, Jessica Chastain, and a few others. So yeah, they're already starting to do that. It's great. I love those roundtables. Super interesting. Yeah, so a few award things I wanted to go over. So we have a few nomination announcements. We have the HFPA, Hollywood Foreign Press Association, announced the Golden Globes nomination this week. The Independent Spirit Awards announced their nominations this week, and the Critics' Choice Awards also announced their nominations this week. So I do want to kind of just go through a few of these. For the HFPA, for the Golden Globes, I just want to read out the Best Picture in each category. A movie winning an award does not necessarily mean that it's a good movie or that it's better than this or better than this. But I do think that there is something to say that, we should be honoring the best of the best in film. And I think that having it by year is just the easiest way to honor films periodically, or honor, anything that comes out periodically. I think the year is the best way to do that. But a lot of every year, there comes the conversation of the validity of each of these awards. Like the HFPA is always under scrutiny, especially last year and the year before, about like their exclusivity within their organization and like who are they voting for, how are they nominating people, and so me covering these nominations is not necessarily an endorsement for these award shows. I actually think that the Golden Globes is a complete and utter waste of time, but there's no denying the fact that people watch these and that they are important to the films. They give, these award shows, especially the Golden Globes, gives these movies second, third lives beyond theaters that they wouldn't normally have. So regardless of their validity, and I think that the Golden Globes is a joke, to be honest, regardless of their validity, they're still important nonetheless. And the Independent Spirit Awards and the Critics' Choice Awards are much more honorable awards, and the PGAs, which I'll cover even later, are even higher than that. Once you start getting into we can talk about that later. But so I wanted to read off just a few of the Golden Globe nominees. So this is what is nominated for this year's Best Motion Picture Drama: Belfast, Coda, Dune, King Richard, and The Power of the Dog. So Best Motion Picture, Musical or Comedy, here are the nominees: Cyrano, Don't Look Up, Licorice Pizza, Tick, Tick, Boom, and West Side Story. Two of those are musicals, being Tick, Tick, Boom and West Side Story, I think. I don't think Cyrano, I don't think that's a musical. But yeah, so that's it. That's all I wanted to share about that. And if you follow one award show, you'll find a small section of movies that people think are good. But if you kind of gain an amalgamation of what's being nominated and what's winning, over the course of the year from, the 20 or so different award shows that I might cover in a year, you can kind of see which movies like tend to rise to the top or become the cream of the crop, as it were. I didn't mean to rhyme there, but that wound up working out anyway. So that was the Golden Globes. Independent Spirit Awards. This is always an award show for independent movies, obviously, as the title suggests. So I'll just do the same thing. Best feature is what they call it here. Akiara is one. Come On, Come On. The Lost Daughter. That's the movie. I think it comes out this week, actually, directed by Maggie Gyllenhaal. The Novice and Zola. So those are, that's that. Just looking through a couple other of these things to see if anything's interesting. Yeah, Best Director Maggie Gyllenhaal is nominated for The Lost Daughter. Just to bring that up as a name, I haven't seen the movie. I haven't seen any of those movies, actually. So yeah, and then I just want to talk about the Critics' Choice Awards as well. That Best Picture, I'll just read them out real quick. Belfast, Coda, Don't Look Up, Dune, King Richard, Licorice Pizza, Nightmare Alley, The Power of the Dog, Tick Tick Boom, and West Side Story. And just because it's right here and it's interesting, I'll just read it as well. Best Director, Paul Thomas Anderson, Kenneth Branagh, Jane Champion, Guillermo del Toro, Steven Spielberg, and Denis Villeneuve. So there you go. That's the Critics' Choice Awards, Independent Spirit Awards, and the Golden Globes in reverse order. So yeah, just keep a lookout for those. Award show season is coming up and is nearly upon us. To be honest, I think it's kind of a joke that we're rolling out the nominees before the year is even finished. There are a couple of movies that haven't even come out yet, but I'm sure that if the producers of the movie wanted the movie to be nominated, then they have gone through the necessary routes, such as the things we went over a week or two ago about having, various screenings in Los Angeles, X amount of days per week, and the times and whatever. So, yeah. So, all right, let's move on to the next thing. The Blacklist announced their most popular unproduced screenplays for the year. They do this every year. The Blacklist is a website that you can pay for to have access to, and you can upload, if you're a screenwriter, you can upload a screenplay, and there's a lot of industry exposure there. And every year, the Blacklist will release this list of most popular unproduced screenplays. And what happens here, and it's not necessarily unproduced either, it's just screenplays that haven't been bought. But the Blacklist is a place for screenwriters, both professional and unprofessional, to upload screenplays, and producers, actors, other screenwriters will go there and read the screenplays, and there's an option to buy the screenplay and contact the screenwriter, and it's a really great avenue for both professional and unprofessional screenwriters to really break into the industry if they think they have a really good script. And so you can recommend it might be called something else, but you can recommend a script, like give it a thumbs up or whatever. And if a screenplay has has 7 or more recommendations or likes or whatever they call it, I forget what it's called exactly, but it will wind up on this list of 25, I think, maybe more, screenplays if they are unproduced as well. So let me just read the top. I'll read the top 3, and then there are 2 below, two a little farther down the list that I find interesting as well. So again, these are the most recommended, most popular, not necessarily best, make that clear, but most popular unproduced screenplays of the year, according to the Blacklist. So this is Cauliflower by Daniel Jackson. And the synopsis is, under the cruel guidance of a mysterious coach, an ambitious high school wrestler struggles to become a state champion while battling a bizarre infection in his ear that both makes him dominant in his sport and threatens his sanity. It's Cauliflower. That's the most recommended, the most popular screenplay. This is See How They Run by Lily Hollander. A blind mother moves into a remote farmhouse with her young daughter, but the mystery of the home's previous inhabitants intrudes upon her attempts to repair their relationship. And this is Divorce Party by Rebecca Webb. Patricia Ford feels pretty good about trading her South Boston roots for a perfect life on New York's Upper East Side, until everything falls to shit and her raucous girlfriend throws her a divorce party at the home she's about to lose. As the night goes from wild to totally insane, Patricia takes back control of her life. So those are the top 3 most popular unproduced screenplays of the year, according to the Blacklist. And a little farther down the list, I found this was really interesting. This is called The College Dropout by Thomas Aguilar and Michael Balin. A young Kanye West's intimate journey to create his seminal first album that reinvented hip-hop music. I think that'd be a great biopic. That's super interesting. And here we go. Another one. Sorry. Okay. Michael Bay, The Explosive Biopic. That's a pretty bad title. That is obviously going to have to be reworked, but this is by Sean Tidwell. packed with enough C4 to split an asteroid in two. This tell-all Michael Bay origin story reveals the explosions that defined him, the fire that ignited his little heart, and the fate that sealed his Hollywood destiny. I find that pretty interesting as well. So a lot of times producers will look to this blacklist to see if they can, just buy scripts, and sometimes they'll get made, sometimes they won't. Sometimes, a screenwriter, the life of a screenwriter is really hard because you could spend your life's work writing a screenplay that might never get produced, and it might never even get bought. But then if it gets bought, it might not get produced, and if it gets produced, it might get handed to a bad director that winds up doing a shit job with the writing and not understanding your work. The life of a screenwriter is really hard, but a lot of times producers will look at this blacklist and buy screenplays, and sometimes they'll go on to become great pictures. Slumdog Millionaire, Argo were two blacklist picks of recent note. So yeah, that is always interesting. So the next thing I wanted to, and if you are interested, feel free to create an account on the blacklist and pay the monthly fee, and then you can get in there as well and read those scripts. And then the next thing I wanted to talk about was the Library of Congress has unveiled this year's 25 selections for preservation in the National Film Registry, bringing the total films up to 825. These films are, of course, and this is a quote from the National Congress itself, the Library of Congress itself, quote, these films are, quote, culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant films. And I'm just going to read them all really quick. So the films being added to the registry are Ringling Brothers Parade Film, Jubilo, The Flying Ace, Hellbound Train, Flowers and Trees, Strangers on the Train, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, Evergreen, Requiem 29, The Murder of Fred Hampton, Pink Flamingos, Sounder, The Long Goodbye, Cooley High, Richard Pryor Live in Concert, Chicana, The Wobblies, Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, A Nightmare on Elm Street, Stop Making Sense, Who Killed Vincent Chin, The Watermelon Woman, Selena, The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, and WALL-E. So those are the 25 films being added to the Library of Congress's National Film Registry, bringing the total up to 825 films. So that is all the small things that I wanted to get into before I get into now what I watched this week. So I don't normally get hyped up about movies or anything for that matter, video games, books, whatever. I don't usually feel the hype of something. I don't get excited for things necessarily. Well, I get excited, but I don't, go overboard. But there's a lot of marketing out and about today for the new Matrix movie, and something about it just really struck a chord with me. So I wound up watching The Matrix this week, and I also watched The Matrix Reloaded a little bit. I'll get into that in a sec. But I don't know what it was exactly about the marketing, but something just really drew me back into this world. I think it just really resonated with the inner child in me. The Matrix was one of the movies that made me fall in love with this industry, and it was one of the first Blu-ray films that I bought for myself. It was one of the first R-rated movies I ever watched. And I just saw it at the right time in my life when I was starting to question a lot of things about the world. And if you don't know, The Matrix is about a down on his luck guy that finds out that the world he's living in is actually false, and he lives in a computer program, yada, yada, yada. It's a really interesting, poignant film. I think it came out at the perfect time in the late 90s. I think it came out in 99, right around the time of Y2K and this whole big technological revolution. It came out at the perfect time, and it really captured a lot of people's imaginations. I found it a little bit later, in probably 2004, 2005 or so is when I first saw it, and it really captured my imagination too. Now, this movie is loved by a lot of people, the first Matrix movie, but it's not without its faults. However, the things that it does really well and really the things that it does really well are the things that are most unique to the film. For instance, the action sequences, including bullet time, which was created in this film. It's this 360-degree look at a scene in slow motion shot with 360 cameras or so. That was invented for this film. That technique. And it has since been used hundreds of times since. That brings action sequences to a new level, a new type of visceral excitement that we hadn't yet seen before. There's that. There's some interesting characters, some really interesting writing, and that's one thing that I think that this movie kind of stands out in its creativity, where it can find these things, right? There's this conversation with Neo and Mouse and the rest of the crew. I think his name's Mouse. And the rest of the crew, they're eating some sort of meal in the Nebuchadnezzar. And Mouse is like, oh, chicken is like this easy thing to produce, or, whatever it is. And he's like, that's why everything tastes like chicken. And that's like it's so unique. It's so interesting. And it's like just a comment on society. Why does everything taste like chicken? Or maybe not everything tastes like chicken. Maybe chicken has a very unique taste, but everyone, that's a common phrase. Everything tastes like chicken. This tastes like chicken, blah, blah, blah. So to bring that type of societal, norm, this societal thought that, everything tastes like chicken, and then have some sort of explanation for it is so interesting, and they do it again with deja vu. Oh, deja vu is a glitch in the Matrix. That's what happens when they change something. That's such an interesting thought. And to have some sort of explanation for these things that occur in our everyday lives, it's so interesting. It really, if you're the right age when you watch this movie for the first time, it can really capture your imagination. A lot of things about this movie are kind of funny and don't hold up. I find the whole 90s punk grunge aesthetic so funny. Like the humans, when they go into the Matrix, the humans of Morpheus's crew, when they go into the Matrix and they have this spiky, gelled hair, and they're all wearing leather, and it's bleach blonde, frosted tips hair. It's so funny. It's not from like oh haha, but it's like, just like, look at this style. Like it's so not. It just screams 90s. And I think that at the time that was like the attempt to be cool, and I think it was cool at the time. Fight Club has that same kind of aesthetic to it at certain points with Tyler Durden's bleach blonde hair. So it's definitely a movie like just of that era of the 90s. And I don't really think that it reflects poorly or positively on the movie. I think it just is what it is. And maybe you can look back on the movie, with rose-colored glasses, just of the costumes and whatnot, and just be like, oh wow, look at look at what we thought was cool in the 90s. And that's kind of how I thought about it. It never really brought me out of the movie, other than, wow, look at what we thought was cool in the 90s. But I guess from like a story perspective, if these people were trying to fit in the Matrix, then wouldn't they want to wear something that didn't stand out as cool, or wear something that wasn't like such a 90s vibe, or such a 90s aesthetic? I'm not really sure. That's just kind of an open question. The movie brought up some really unique, interesting, original thoughts into people's minds, and it did it in a really interesting way. Like the scene where Neo is in his office building, and he gets the phone, and Morpheus picks up, and he's like, listen to what I'm about to do, because the agents are coming for you, whatever. Go to the go to the cubicle across the aisle. Go now. And then the agents are looking for him, leads Neo out onto the window, and that scene is thrilling, and it still is. I knew what was happening. I've seen this movie probably about a dozen times or so. I still knew what was happening, and I still watch that scene like nobody's business. But however, I in some of the slower scenes throughout the second act, I did find the movie kind of drag a little bit, and I don't really know what I can attribute that to, other than maybe I've seen it a bunch of times, and so the constant explanation of, what's the Matrix and what's this and what's that, maybe just didn't really grip me as much as it did when I was younger. I'm probably in terms of the story of the Matrix, I'm probably a cog in the Matrix. I'm probably just, some line of code somewhere. So maybe it didn't capture me as much as it would have if I was younger and still, in high school and questioning, everything about life and, where do we come from? What is this? What if it's all fake? What if it doesn't matter? It's, those kind of questions can really capture someone of that age. And I think it's just a really great movie. I think I will say that sometimes the action can get kind of out of hand, where it's just like, just like a little too much. Like, action, it's an action movie, right? But it's an action movie with a really interesting plot. And I find the plot the most interesting part of this movie. I don't really think that anyone's a good actor except for Lawrence Fishburne. Well, no, I guess. So Lawrence Fishburne and Hugo Weaving are great. Lawrence Fishburne is Morpheus. Hugo Weaving is Agent Smith. I think that those two are both great. I think that Hugo Weaving even kind of phones it in a little bit, but I think he's kind of doing it for a purpose. Agent Smith is a program. I think Hugo Weaving does what he needs to do in that regard. But so like you watch this movie for the plot that is kind of interesting, and you watch it for the action sequences. And I think that the action sequences kind of take over at a certain point, right? There's this give and take in a movie like this, where with action sequences that sustain your entertainment for, X amount of time. And then the plot that kind of pulls it forward to make the action sequences worthwhile, to have some sort of payoff at the end of the action sequence that's like, okay, moving the plot forward. A lot of times, though, the action doesn't give what the plot should take. You're right. It doesn't fit into that puzzle as well as it should, in that, we'll have a 10-minute action sequence, not that long, a few minute action sequence that doesn't push the plot forward at all. It really only exists just for the sake of action. And that's fine. We have plenty of movies like that, but that can, from a writer's perspective, or a director or producer, that type of long action sequence can detract from the plot, and it can make the movie a lesser overall product, I guess, or lesser art form. So yeah, that's all about the action sequences. But yeah, the plot is very interesting, and I think that if the movie if the movie didn't have as many action sequences as it did, and it really just focused on the plot, and Keanu Reeves was like kind of a better actor at the time, and Carrie-Anne Moss too. I think that she's kind of matching Keanu Reeves' energy. That's like kind of this. Keanu Reeves is kind of doing his Keanu Reeves thing, his Bill and Ted, like, whoa, I know Kung Fu, like that whole thing. And Carrie-Anne Moss is kind of matching that energy. I just don't really buy either of their performances. So I was like kind of surprised to go back and watch this movie, and I wound up loving it, years ago. And I almost kind of look down upon certain aspects of it now, especially the acting. I mean, woof, it could use some work, but that doesn't change the fact that at the time that I watched it, I was the right age and in the right headspace, that it really did capture me. And this was like this kind of the same thing that I was saying with Tick, Tick, Boom, was that even though there are some aspects of the movie that you can take away and point to, pick out and just say, this isn't that great, or this character isn't likable, or that song was useless. At the end of the day, when you end the movie, when you walk out of the movie theater, you turn off your DVD player in my instance, and you turn off your TV and you sit back, and if you feel some sort of emotional resonance toward that movie at the end, didn't it kind of do its job, even though Keanu Reeves isn't a good actor, or didn't act well in this part, even though the dialogue was choppy, even though I've seen it a few times? If I still had an emotional resonance of feeling nostalgic, feeling like questioning the things around me, what deja vu is, who in my own life could be an agent, and feeling like maybe there is something more than just this 9 to 5 that I have. Didn't the movie kind of do its job? So in that regard, I think it is. I think it's a good movie. But no one was disputing that. The Matrix is obviously a good movie. I think and I think a lot of people would agree with me, that it just has some things that stick out, especially as it's 20 years old. Right? Yeah, 22 years old. So yeah, and then I watched the next night. I watched The Matrix Reloaded, and I got 30 minutes in, and I had to turn it off. I just couldn't do it. I've seen this movie before. I've seen The Matrix Reloaded, and I've seen The Matrix Revolutions before. I really wanted to sit through them. I really, really wanted to get through them to watch Resurrections, which comes out in theaters later this week. I promise I really, really did want to watch them, but I just couldn't. And I found that this movie, The Reloaded, was doing the same kind of thing that the Star Wars prequel trilogy was doing, where it acknowledged that there was a lot of cool stuff in the original work. But instead of focusing on that cool stuff, it just made the world, the environment, the lore, it just made it bigger, and it aimed to explain a lot of things, but it did it in a really poor way that seems like it's pandering to the audience and talking down to you instead of treating you with respect. And what I mean by that is, instead of showing more endeavors into the Matrix and having more of Neo's, more of Neo's trials and tribulations in his becoming the savior for the humankind. Instead of that, we get a lot of, political jargon and a lot of, interpersonal relationships between this new character Link and his wife and his child, and between Morpheus and Niobe, and there's this, general of the humans, and what are we watching this for? And I seriously got 30 minutes in, and the plot was losing me. And I was like, wow, I still have 2 hours left of this and a whole nother movie of this. And I was like, man, I just can't do it. I'm sorry. I hope that the fourth movie isn't a direct continuation. I hope that you can watch the fourth movie without seeing the second and third ones, to be honest. It seems in the trailer you can, because I'm going to go into it to totally, not blind, because I've seen the second and third movies before, but I'm just going to go into it without having watched the second and third movies. I just couldn't do it. I just, honest to God, could not sit through those movies. I just couldn't do it. So that's what you get from me. You get me watching the first Matrix, and then you get 30 minutes of the second one. That's what you get from me. I truly could not do it. It was so bad. It was just dull. We go and then we watch 30 minutes of political drama, political jargon, and that there's just nothing there. There's just nothing interesting there. I challenge you, write in whatgetscaptured@gmail.com. Write into the show. Tell me something interesting that happens in the first 30 minutes of The Matrix Reloaded. You can't do it. All right, that's enough of that. Other than that, I didn't watch anything. But on my list here is still Seinfeld and Ozark, season 2. I'm still working my way through those. I haven't forgotten about them, but I've just been watching them at my own pace, at my leisure. So let's get into the news, some of the biggest news stories this week. The first one kind of doesn't necessarily make sense for me to write a news story about it. But let me read the story that I wrote first, and then I can talk a little bit about my reasoning behind the structure of the show. So, number one, the Producers Guild of America has announced the nominations for Outstanding Producer of Documentary Theatrical Motion Pictures, or Best Documentary in layman's terms. The nominees are as follows: Ascension, The First Wave, Flee, In the Same Breath, The Rescue, Simple as Water, Summer of Soul, or When the Revolution Could Not Be Televised, and Writing with Fire. Some of these titles may sound familiar to you, as we've slowly been mentioning them and their releases on this show. There is a wide variety of topics covered this year, with Ascension covering the Chinese dream, the quote-unquote Chinese dream, through social and economic classes. The First Wave covering the COVID-19 impact on New York starting in March of 2020. And Summer of Soul being Questlove's directorial debut about the 1969 Harlem Cultural Festival, just to name a few titles. It should be noted that the award for Best Documentary last year, My Octopus Teacher, also went on to win the Best Documentary Oscar as well. The Producers Guild of America Awards will announce the nominations for sports and children's short-form categories on January 13th, 2022, and the nominations for film and television on January 27th, 2022. The awards show will take place on January 27th, 2022. How about that? The nominations and the show take place on the same day. How about that? So I know that this could have gone in the top of the show with the other nominations, but I just wanted to stress the importance of various shows, right? So at the top of the show, we had Golden Globes, Independent Spirit Awards, and Critics' Choice Awards. And now we have the Producers Guild of America Awards, the PGA Awards. I want to stress that once you get into the unionized awards, you have the PGAs, the WGAs, the SAG-AFTRA Awards. Those are much more consequential than the other awards. The industry looks at it stronger, with more, there's more weight to the awards. The people that are voting have more of a stake in the awards. It's like the Oscars. Each of these unionized awards are similar to the Oscars, except you just build them out more. So the Writers Guild Award is the WGAs are, every single type of genre that you could imagine, including television, and different aspects of television, like different, short form comedy, long form comedy, short form drama, single camera drama, whatever, of writing. And they really just go to celebrate the industry in the year. So I think that stressing the importance of these unionized awards, or these awards from the union members, are much more important to stress than the awards from outside parties like the HFPA, Independent Spirit Awards, Critics' Choice Awards. I think these are really where, if you want to pay attention to award shows, this is where you should put your focus. And that was pretty much it. So number 2. Florence Pugh, Rami Malek, and Benny Safdie are set to join Christopher Nolan's next endeavor, Oppenheimer, according to The Hollywood Reporter. These three join the already star-studded cast of Robert Downey Jr., Matt Damon, and Emily Blunt, with Cillian Murphy in the titular role. Pugh was nominated for an Oscar for portraying Amy March in Greta Gerwig's Little Women. Rami Malek won an Oscar for portraying Freddie Mercury in Bohemian Rhapsody, and Betty Safdie is best known for writing and directing the Adam Sandler starring film Uncut Gems with his brother Josh Safdie, but has also been making the rounds as a talented actor as well. The film's plot is mostly kept under wraps, but one can conclude, since Nolan is adapting the screenplay from the novel American Prometheus, the triumph and tragedy of J. Robert Oppenheimer, that the film will be about the famed father of the atomic bomb, J. Robert Oppenheimer, and his relation to the Manhattan Project. The film is still in pre-production, and production will most likely be tight under wraps, as most Nolan films are, but Universal Pictures has set July 21st, 2023 to be the release date. So I imagine that the film is going to start production this upcoming spring or summer, and then it will go into post-production for however long it needs to be, potentially 6 to 8 months, or maybe 6 months and then 2 months of marketing, and then release in July. I think it'll hit that July date. I don't think they have any problem with that, but Nolan's last film, Tenet, was delayed for, months because of COVID. I don't necessarily foresee that happening again in the summer of 2023, but so Florence Pugh, Rami Malek, Benny Safdie. It seems like Nolan is, just like all of his films, making a A-tier cast. And I always love to follow his castings because they're so intriguing. Florence Pugh, Rami Malek, Benny Safdie, Robert Downey Jr., Matt Damon, Emily Blunt, Cillian Murphy. It's what an A-tier all-star celeb list cast. It's really cool, something to see. Other than that, there's not much that I can say about the quality of the film just from these castings, but it is definitely news, and it's news that is noteworthy because Christopher Nolan is one of the biggest names in the industry today, and I think that pretty much everyone knows that. So yeah, Oppenheimer should be interesting. I said this the last time we talked about this, I think with the casting of Emily Blunt or something like that, But the thing that I'm most interested to see is that Nolan is historically very well known for using CG as little as possible and trying to do everything that he can with practical effects. And I would love to see what he's going to do with atomic bombs in this movie with practical effects. He, with the advent of Interstellar and the advent of space exploration, history of space, history of black holes, research of black holes. This is hearsay. I don't know if this is actually true, but NASA at the time didn't have the proper funding to conduct these large-scale, research projects that the script demanded. So Nolan funded them himself, and the production of Interstellar forwarded the research around black holes more than NASA could do on its own, which, if that's true, is sad for NASA because they need more money, and space travel is inevitable. We need it. Final frontier. But that's beside the point. And it just goes to show that how committed he is to his scripts and his screenplays. And I hope that the atomic bomb, the Manhattan Project, is getting that same love as well. I'm really intrigued to see what that looks like. But that's all I can really say about it for now. I'll continue to update as that story progresses. So, and we're a long ways out from that, July of 2023. It's a long way out. So, okay, let's get into the next thing. Number 3, Lionsgate released the first trailer for surreal meta movie, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. In this film, Nicolas Cage, starring as himself, quote, agrees to make a paid appearance as a billionaire superfan's birthday party, at a billionaire superfan's birthday party, but is really an informant for the CIA since the billionaire fan is a drug kingpin and gets cast in a Tarantino movie, end quote. The film is directed by Tom Gormican and Kevin Eaton. Both names are relatively unknown, working on respectable shows such as Scrubs, Ghosted, and That Awkward Moment. The film also stars Pedro Pascal, Neil Patrick Harris, and Tiffany Haddish. Nicolas Cage is an Academy Award-winning actor making a name for himself in Leaving Las Vegas, Con Air, and Face Off. In the mid to late 2000s, Cage became known for his overacting and frequently showing up in poorly received films. In recent years, however, Cage has seen somewhat of a renaissance with Mandy, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Pig, and now this film, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, which will be released in theaters on April 22nd, 2022. I am so excited for this movie, but you might see me not excited after I watch a trailer because, the quality could really, we'll see. Let me just watch a trailer and I will get right back to you. So that was a pretty interesting trailer. It gave a lot of insight into what the, kind of vibe of the movie is going to be, what the attitude is. Seems like, pretty comedic. I like that Nicolas Cage is on board for this. He previously did a really high level comedy that'll probably be way better written than this movie is with Adaptation, where he plays Charlie Kaufman and his fictional twin brother Donald Kaufman. That movie is way more high concept and way more interesting than this will probably be. But so Cage is no stranger to this type of meta comedy, meta movie, and he was nominated for an Oscar for Adaptation as well. I hope that this movie doesn't get bogged down in its whole concept of, this is Nicolas Cage. Look how, funny, look how much he's overacting. Look how, self-aware he is, or, whatever it is. It's, at the end of the day, the movie needs to make me feel something, whether that, be comedy or whatever. And, it needs to make me laugh. It needs to, maybe have some heart to it. And I don't know if I see that. I might see, some sort of poorly written, high concept stoner flick. But I don't know. I was really excited for it. The trailer kind of threw me off a little bit. I think I'm more excited for the concept of the movie than the actual movie. Just about Nicolas Cage starring as himself is amazing. And he's like down in his luck and looking for a next big role. I think that's hilarious. But in reality, what is that going to look like? And I don't know if it looks too hot. But regardless, Nicolas Cage is definitely seeing a renaissance. And a lot of people are kind of riding for this movie to do well. So, and I am as well. I want it to be good. I think it'd be amazing if it was good. What kind of threw me off was that Pedro Pascal plays the rich fan who's a drug kingpin. I wasn't expecting that. I thought that Pedro Pascal would be like Pedro Pascal. He would just like play himself. And the rich drug kingpin fan was going to be like some, 15-year-old, 16-year-old kid. But I guess not. So that kind of threw me off. It threw me off that there are named actors in this movie that aren't playing themselves. That Pedro Pascal, like in this world, Nicolas Cage exists. Does Pedro Pascal exist? And if so, does he look like this drug kingpin? What does that do? What does that look like? I don't know. It's confusing. I'm getting bogged down in the minutia of everything. I should just, turn my brain off and watch a movie. But those are things you got to ask yourself. But yeah. All right, let's next thing. Number 4, Warner Brothers released the first trailer for the third Fantastic Beasts film this week, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, The Secrets of Dumbledore, and it will follow the adventures of Newt Scamander. This will be the first Fantastic Beasts film without Johnny Depp portraying Grindelwald, which was no doubt related to the negative press surrounding the separation with Amber Heard. The film was directed by longtime Harry Potter director David Yates and is written by J.K. Rowling and adapted by Steve Kloves. This will be the third of 5 scheduled films of the Fantastic Beasts series and is the 11th film based on the Harry Potter universe. The film is slated for release on April 8th in the UK and April 15th in the United States. Now, I am going to watch the trailer for this and give you my thoughts, but I just want to say before I leave and watch the trailer, that I have not seen either of the previous 2 Fantastic Beasts movies, but I am going to give you my thoughts on this third one, on the trailer for this third movie. If nothing else, then to give you a little laugh about how little I know. So I will be right back. TBD, or sorry, TBC, to be continued. Wow, yeah, me watching that was almost a complete waste of time because I have no idea what to say about it. I don't know what's going on at all with the plot. Dumbledore is played by Jude Law, which is pretty cool. I didn't know that. Eddie Redmayne is in it, I guess, is pretty much all I can say. There's some magic in it. It's clearly a David Yates Harry Potter film because everything is dark and lacks a lot of color and character. But, you know, that's cool. David Yates is definitely the wrong person to helm these Fantastic Beasts movies. He did the latter 4 Harry Potter movies, which just completely lack all sorts of character. I challenge you to go back and watch them and not get bored watching them because they're just not good. David Yates is just a completely bland director that brings nothing to the table, and those are great scripts too. Some of the, you know, there are moments in what's this Half-Blood Prince that it's great, laugh out loud funny, and David Yates just had no idea how to direct. And it's a shame that he's stuck with it for so long because it's such a popular franchise that someone else with more merit could kill and make this multi-billion-dollar franchise. And the only reason that Fantastic Beasts is still popular is because it has a tie to Harry Potter and J.K. Rowling, and there's just too many fans. And too many people are afraid to say that it's not good, or, people want to like it. You want to like it so bad, and I get it, but it's just not good. Well, I don't know. I can't say that for certain, I guess, because I haven't seen the movies, but I know David Yates is not a good director. I've seen 4 of his movies, right, with Harry Potter. And those were great scripts too. So, So yeah, that's it. No idea what's going on there. So let's move on to the next thing. Number 5. Michael Schulman of The New Yorker wrote a piece, and it was called On Succession, Jeremy Strong Doesn't Get the Joke. This piece, published on December 5th, 2021, essentially was a profile of the actor Jeremy Strong that aimed to downplay his personality and professionalism. Schulman interviewed named industry vets such as Adam McKay and Aaron Sorkin to create this image of Strong. Sorkin's quotes, much like the other named actors and directors, were used as examples in which Strong had been unprofessional on set. Then, on December 10th, 2021, Sorkin spoke up via a written document shared through Jessica Chastain's Twitter. She wrote, quote, Aaron Sorkin doesn't have social media, so he asked me to post this letter on his behalf, XX, end quote. This document, written by Sorkin, contained the 5 questions from Schulman, the author of the article, and the 5 answers from Sorkin unedited, according to Sorkin. The writer-director was most likely trying to save face as he's worked with Strong twice, once in Molly's Game and once in the trial of the Chicago 7, and doesn't think negatively of Strong's acting techniques. Sorkin ended his letter by saying, quote, Jeremy Strong is a great actor and a great company member. There isn't a writer, director, or producer on earth who wouldn't grab at the chance to cast him, end quote. Without saying it explicitly, the implication of Sorkin's letter completely bashed Schulman and The New Yorker, bringing their journalistic integrity into question. Michael Schulman has been a staff writer at The New Yorker since 2006. I didn't really see a lot of people talking about this, but I wanted to just bring this up just to show how little good journalism there is left, that, Michael Schulman clearly has some sort of, this is all to say if Aaron Sorkin is correct, right? But I doubt that he's incorrect. That Michael Schulman clearly has some sort of axe to grind with Jeremy Strong, that he wants to, reach out to his colleagues and frame him as some sort of unprofessional bad actor. And you can go ahead and read that article. I suggest that you don't, because it's poorly written and a joke and probably untrue. But it created this character of Jeremy Strong, the actor, that aims to deface him and call him unprofessional, and that he doesn't understand acting and wants to harm crew members and things like that. And Aaron Sorkin, who was interviewed and named in the article, spoke out against this and said, this is incorrect. This is, my words were taken out of context. And, here's what I was asked, here's what I wrote, and here's a little conclusion about what I think about Jeremy Strong. So, and Sorkin didn't say this. He doesn't have to. He's a smart man. He's a smart writer. That Michael Schulman of The New Yorker is made a complete ass of himself with this article, and he tried to make a joke out of Jeremy Strong. But the thing is that I don't really understand what the purpose of this article was, because Jeremy Strong's still going to find work. He's one of the most sought after actors in Hollywood. He's going to find work, and no person's going to read it. No producer is going to read an article in The New Yorker that Michael Schulman wrote and be like, wow, maybe we shouldn't hire this guy. That's not how Hollywood works. And you go into a job interview, right? Someone has the right to Google your name and be like, oh, you see a headline, what's this about with Dylan Paulson or whatever. But they're not going to do that in Hollywood because they're famous. Everyone's got articles written about them. You never Google your own name if you're famous. You're going to have shit written about you. So this doesn't harm it. This really, truly does not harm anyone, but I just love the balls on Aaron Sorkin for coming out and saying, fuck this guy. This is what I actually said. My words were taken out of context. The New Yorker is a piece of shit. He doesn't say that explicitly, but that's the implication. And yeah, so actually, forget what I said. Don't go to The New Yorker. Go to Jessica Chastain's Twitter to read what Aaron Sorkin wrote. It's great. And it makes total sense that Jessica Chastain would tweet what Aaron Sorkin said, because they work together in Molly's Game. So they're clearly, friendly or friends or, whatever you want to say. That was all I had to say about that. Number 6, A24 released the first trailer for the upcoming Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinhardt written and directed adventure film, Everything Everywhere All at Once. The two writer-directors collectively known as Daniels are previously known for Swiss Army Man. This new film stars Jamie Lee Curtis and Michelle Yeoh, and is about, quote, an aging Chinese immigrant is swept up in an insane adventure where she alone can save the world by exploring other universes, connecting the lives she could have led, end quote. The film is set to be released in theaters on March 11th, 2022. I hadn't seen Swiss Army Man, but I think that was also distributed by A24, but yeah, a lot of people like it. It's like a really well-regarded, well-renowned, really well-known indie film by these two men that are known as Daniels. So I'm going to watch a trailer and give you my thoughts on it. I'll be right back. I am so on board with this movie. I guess it never really occurred to me how unique Swiss Army Man was. I guess because I've never seen it, but and people are always talking so positively about it. I gotta go ahead and watch it. But these two writer-directors have such an interesting take on everything, and what they're doing here is clearly so bright and unique and something I haven't seen before. It's about this woman. It seems like it's about this woman that gets in touch with all the different lives that she could have led and how they lead her to control her future, about the choices that she's going to make. It seems so interesting. It seems fun and bright and colorful and unique. The word of the show, I guess. And I am just so interested. I'm already invested in it. Michelle Yeoh is clearly the star of the show. She does 1,000 things in the movie, it seems like. It's the IMDb also said that it had Jamie Lee Curtis in it. I didn't even see her in the trailer. I might have not been paying exact attention, but I mean, that is peak movie. I can't believe I put that, number 6 on this list of news. That should have been number 1. That trailer was incredible, and I'm so invested in that movie already. That's going on the list, people. I'm watching it in theaters. That's going to be awesome. I can't wait. Can't wait to see that. And there's not much more I can say about it. So maybe we'll get another trailer. Maybe we won't. Maybe we'll just see you in March 11th, 2022. Everything, everywhere, all the time, all at once. Yeah. So, okay, number 7. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 got its first trailer this week via the Game Awards, hosted by video game industry vet Jeff Keighley. Ben Schwartz and Jim Carrey were present at the award show on Thursday evening. Carrey only present via a pre-recorded video. And they were there to show off the new trailer that showcases the new film featuring Tails and Knuckles. Here's the film synopsis. Quote, After the events of Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic stays in Green Hills while Tom and Maddie Wachowski go on vacation. When Dr. Eggman returns in search for the Master Emerald with the help of Knuckles, the Echidna, Sonic and his new friend Miles Tails Prower set out to find the emerald before it falls into the wrong hands, end quote. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 stars Ben Schwartz, Jim Carrey, and Idris Elba. It is directed by Jeff Fowler and will be released on March 31st, 2022. I saw this trailer when I was watching the Game Awards because Jeff Keighley, advertised the absolute shit out of the show, that there would be huge announcements, and it was really just a complete waste of time. That trailer is a waste of time. If you're interested in Sonic the Hedgehog, go watch it. I'm not interested in it. It's definitely a movie for kids, movie for, parents to show their kids. I'm not going to watch it. I don't really even want to cover it. So that's all I have to say about that. But so that is all the big news stories we have. Let me get into the wrap up here, and that'll be all the news. So, Hollywood Reporter reports that Caitlin Cronenberg, daughter of famed writer-director David Cronenberg, will helm her directorial debut, a thriller titled Humane, written by Michael Sparaga. Deadline reports that modern remake of Andrew Lloyd Webber's Phantom of the Opera is in the works from Universal, with John Fusco writing the script and Harvey Mason Jr. and John Legend producing. Sorry, not John Lennon. Sorry to get you excited. TCM spoke to The Hollywood Reporter about their upcoming big screen classic lineup for 2022, which include Casablanca, Singing in the Rain, Smokey and the Bandit, Cabaret, Poltergeist, Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, In the Heat of the Night, To Kill a Mockingbird, and It's a Wonderful Life. Check out TCM, Fathom Events, or The Hollywood Reporter for more info. Paramount Plus released a teaser and release date for South Park Post-COVID, The Return of COVID, the second of 14 made-for-TV South Park movies exclusive to the service, releasing on December 16th, 2021, which is very soon. Deadline, or Variety, I'm not exactly sure who broke the story, reports that David Arquette and Scott Foley joined the cast of The Storied Life of A.J. Fikry, shooting in Cape Cod at this very moment. Deadline reports that Midas Man, the movie about the Beatles manager Brian Epstein, won't start filming until late January, according to the new director. Deadline reports that Nina Toussaint White and Bahadur Faladi join Gerard Butler in action thriller Kandahar. Disney took Deep Water off its release schedule for an unknown reason. This film stars Ben Affleck and Ana de Armas. Deadline reported that the film is heading to streaming Hulu domestically and Amazon Prime overseas. No date announced as of yet. Deadline reports that Seth Rogen and Elle Fanning are in talks to join the cast of Chippendales from New Regency, starring Dev Patel. Dennis Quaid announces the launch of his own production studio with his wife, Laura Quaid, and another producer, Ben Howard. Deadline reports that Liam Neeson is set to narrate a documentary, Ireland, supposedly about Ireland. Hollywood Reporter reports that Warner Brothers has postponed the UK release of Colin Firth's starring period film Operation Mincemeat from January 14th to April 22nd, 2022, in light of new COVID-19 variant Omicron. Deadline reports that Zoe Dutch starring Amazon film Something from Tiffany's adds Kendrick Sampson, Ray Nicholson, Shay Mitchell, and Leah Jeffries to its cast. And that is all the news. And as we do with every show of what gets captured on film, let's end with what is new in theaters this week. Got a huge week this week. First up is Spider-Man No Way Home. With Spider-Man's identity now revealed, Peter asks Doctor Strange for help. When a spell goes wrong, dangerous foes from other worlds start to appear, forcing Peter to discover what it truly means to be Spider-Man. Directed by John Watts, starring Benedict Cumberbatch, Zendaya, Marissa Tomei, and Tom Holland. It's interesting that he's credited fourth. Next up, Nightmare Alley. An ambitious carny with a talent for manipulating people with a few well-chosen words hooks up with a female psychiatrist who is even more dangerous than he is. Directed by Guillermo del Toro, starring Bradley Cooper, Cate Blanchett, Toni Collette, and Willem Dafoe. Willem Dafoe has two movies this week, the top two movies. Next up, The Lost Daughter. A woman's beach vacation takes a dark turn when she begins to confront the troubles of her past. Directed by Maggie Gyllenhaal, starring Olivia Colman, Jessie Buckley, Dakota Johnson, and Ed Harris. That movie's supposedly really good. It's up for a few Independent Spirit Awards. The Novice, a college freshman joins her university's rowing team and undertakes an obsessive physical and psychological journey to make it to the top varsity boat, no matter the cost. Directed by Lauren Hadaway, starring Isabel Furman, Amy Forsyth, Delone, and Jonathan Cherry. And that's it. That's everything in theaters this week. 4, heavy hitter movies. But it's that time of year. It is December. And these will come out December 17th, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, December 17th, or potentially December 16th at midnight. So that's it. That's all we have for the show. Really exciting time. It's award season's coming up, and there's a lot of big movies that are being released this week and next week into January. So, really big time. This was a big show, a long show. I really appreciate everyone sticking around as long as they could. Again, my name is Dylan. This was What Gets Captured on Film. If you have any inquiries or want to write in, ask me questions, tell me off, let me know. It's whatgetscaptured@gmail.com. Whatgetscaptured@gmail.com. Again, my name is Dylan. This was What Gets Captured on Film. Every Wednesday, 9 a.m., Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and YouTube at noon. Until then, keep watching movies. Be safe out there, and stay safe around the holidays.